I sold cocaine. I started selling cocaine when I was 11 years old. Powder cocaine, never crack.
The reason we're in this mess now, on my side, my industry has abused the public.
I was pretty mad. I mean, you made a mistake and now I gotta pay for it.
You can make a lot of money from prisoners and prisoners' families, especially in these peripheral services.
They are dependent on their family's money, completely dependent on their family's money, and they're punishing the families, not the inmates.
There are 2.7 million children with at least one parent in prison. There are 700,000 inmates released to society every year. This is an American problem. This is a Main Street problem.
There's plenty of money to be made on that, unfortunately.
I know who's making money and, down to the penny. And I could tell you that nobody is making a killing on those margins.
But it is kind of sad that they would pick on his mother who is 80 years old and trying to make do on $1,200 and some dollars a month.
It's not just one company and it's not just one prison. This is an entire system that is shifting the burden onto poor families.
Daddy! Say hi.
The fact that she has to pay the fees to send the money, and then the fact that they make a certain cutoff of it seems to be that they're double dipping.
I am Jewel Miller and I live at Swords Creek and I am very active. Friday's Jewel Day, so I have my hair done that day and just get out and mostly enjoy whatever that comes my way. But I always do it on the weekends so when I go up that it will look good. I go see my son every Saturday. I have 6 kids. I have one daughter that has passed away. And my youngest one is in prison at Bland.
I worked in coal mines, and I got out running around, I guess, with the wrong crowd. And in the long story short, I came into getting strung out on Oxycontin. And things just kept going downhill from there. I ended up getting 2 robbery charges, with other charges included. I got 21 years and 6 months.
My name is Pat Taylor, and I live in Johnson City, Tennessee. Eddie's been incarcerated 14 years. I was a single mother. He had a rough life.
Okay, to load. Very good. It's a real good sense of accomplishment to know that you're doing something good for the community, to give back. Good boy.
People love him. I've had people say that they've never seen a poor boy with as many friends as Keith has.
I've often tried not to ask her for anything, just for the simple fact that, I don't want to be a burden to her.
Prisoners with jobs are paid a minimal amount so that they can pay for victims' restitution, fines, goods and services that they want to buy. But those wages haven't gone up in decades, and the prices of things that they buy continue to rise. So increasingly, families are stepping into that gap, paying through prison bankers, and one company has come to dominate 70% of that market.
When I was 23 years old, internet was starting to take its hold on a lot of different industries, and it was clear that it was not even thought of for the prison industry. Why wouldn't you be able to send money with a credit card online? We quickly built a website, and we started taking payments.
JPay is the undisputed leader in the market for getting money into prisons. Last year, this company moved about $1 billion, generating tens of millions in fee revenue. Ryan Shapiro, the company's founder, literally invented this business back in 2002, and he hasn't slowed down since.
What does my morning routine look like? I wake up, I help my kids with breakfast, I run over to CrossFit. It gets me in that competitive mind frame. And it helps me focus for the rest of the day. I feel fantastic the rest of the day. We're trying to convince a family member who for years has been sending money orders in the mail, and we're trying to convince them to use their credit card over the web or over the phone.
In lots of states, families have to go through JPay to send money into a prison at all, because JPay now controls both the electronic transactions and the money orders. So for 14 years, Pat Taylor sent the money order directly to the prison, until last year she was instructed to send it to JPay. For almost 450,000 families, JPay is the only way to send an inmate money, and the company charges them fees as high as 45%.
My first customers were mostly mothers and grandparents. Now, I think a majority are African-American women from the age of like 25 to 36 years old, I believe. And then different, categories of women, basically. It's not just a convenience, it's just a comfort factor for mom to know my son has his money.
I'll show you a few items that we get from commissary. And this is mostly food here.
Prisons contract with private vendors to sell goods and services to inmates, things like food, toiletries, and clothing, as well as phone calls, emails, and stationery. Some prisons even charge for toilet paper.
And I'll show you my hygiene items. They're over here.
Employed prisoners like Keith can earn between 27 and 45 cents an hour in Virginia. That doesn't go far at the prison store.
This is around $4 a bottle for it's not a very big bottle of Suave lotion.
JPay helps streamline the flow of cash into prisons, making it easier for corrections agencies to take a share of the funds. For example, when a relative in Virginia sends $120 to an inmate, the deductions start when JPay takes its first cut, the money transfer fee. Then the state automatically takes money for a savings fund, fines, and restitution. Once inmates receive the money, they're charged for doctors and prescriptions. Email and music downloads are another revenue stream for JPay. That can leave about 1/3 for commissary, and vendors mark that up too.
To give him $50, I have to send 70 off of my card.
It's hardest on people like Pat Taylor, who are barely scraping by. She pays JPay as much as 35% on each transaction before the government takes out its share.
I just let a bill go. I let a bill go and pick it up later.
It's not just one company, and it's not just one prison. Corrections agencies and private vendors work together to shift the costs onto families and make money in the process. Phone and commissary vendors charge marked up prices and return a share of the profits to the prisons. We made several requests to discuss the profit sharing issue with the Virginia Department of Corrections, but they refused to be interviewed for this story.
Well, it's not that much money the first, second, third time, but when you keep doing it, that money goes to someone, whereas before we could just send it straight to them, send $50, they got $50.
While profit sharing isn't new, JPay's innovation was to apply it for the first time to financial services.
Government agencies can and will accept a portion of the revenue as an incentive to put the program in, because if there's any agency or any agency basically or department that's strapped for cash or for money, it's corrections. So this was an opportunity to supplement that budget shortfall basically.
Is it fair to call the commission share a kickback?
Although the structure may seem, the word kickback has a negative connotation, right? And it seems like some person is making that money and pocketing it and buying a new Chevrolet or something, when in fact it's going to use for the inmate's benefit. So the question really becomes, who should be paying for that? Should the taxpayer pay, or should mom and dad pay?
Bureaucracy is bloated. I don't think anybody will look anyone in the eye in the government and say we're not a bloated agency. So when we talk about maybe potentially cutting off fee-for-service things, you're just going to have to get lean and trim like any other business organization in the private sector. My name is Jack Donson. I spent 23 years in the trenches of the Federal Bureau of Prison System. I have a prison consulting business on Wall Street, New York, You can make a lot of money from prisoners and prisoners' families, especially in these peripheral services. Every additional prisoner is more emails, more phone calls, you know, more commissary items purchased. So everyone knows in the private prison world and circles that prisons are extremely profitable. There's a lot of revenue being generated by these things, and they're being paid by the more marginalized population.
My mother, who doesn't have anything to begin with, who never did anything to anybody at all, has to pay this exorbitant fee to send me money. And then when she sends me that money, they take a cut of that money about 3 different ways. You got the Department of Corrections taking a piece, and all these little private vendors making money off my mother who has nothing, who's done nothing wrong. She's not even the customer. If anybody's the customer, it's me. So how come she's getting charged for me? All you're doing is sitting back getting fat off of my mother. My name is Adrian Glenn. Right now I wake up every day about 6 a.m., go off to cosmetology school. From there I leave and work at a barbershop. Spent 49 months, 10 days, 17 hours, Virginia Department of Corrections. I got a friend whose mom, she actually added up the fees, and she was like, I could be paying a car payment with what they're charging me to call him, to send him money when he needs medical care. I could pay a car note off of that. That's not right. The majority of the people that you find incarcerated and locked up are gonna come from poor neighborhoods, projects. Like myself, I come from the projects. The majority of us have either been to jail or prison. I can't really think of a friend who hasn't.
I would say the cost of what we do for Keith a month is at least $400 or $500 a month. And you take that out of $1,200 and you don't have much left.
The fact that she has to pay the fees to send the money, and then the fact that they make a certain cut off of it seems to be that they're double dipping into the money that she's sending.
A couple of months before I was released is when JPay took over. And then all of a sudden, there was a fee for this, there was a fee for that. They might send the money in, but you might not get it. If it goes to a facility that has somebody with a similar name to yours and gets credited to their account, they're not changing it. You're just out of that money.
We don't scam people. We don't overcharge people. If it was due to an electronic mishap, then the customers would all be refunded. The proper money would be put in the right account. But if it was due to a customer mistake and the money was already spent, I don't think the customer expects us to refund them that money.
Everything so far that they have done has just made it harder, more complicated, and cost more money.
You know, there's costs associated with each transaction. And if you don't have the means, there is the availability of doing it the other way, except in those few states where there is no option.
I used to be able to just send a money order straight to the facility, and it would go there and go on his account right there, and he was able to order his commissary.
If you send it by money order, they take their time getting it back to him. It takes about 14 days.
And it may not even get to them in 14 days if I send a money order, so I have it put on my card.
The only reason they drag around is so everybody will go with the credit card and give them more money.
If your child had the same situation, what would you do? If your child, your husband, your wife, your mother, your father, do you love your family?
Ryan Shapiro denies that this is an issue. He says people's money orders are credited within 2 or 3 days after they're received. What we found, talking to families all over the country, is that their money orders are arriving a lot more slowly since JPay came in. For families without any extra money to spend a few weeks in advance, this just doesn't work. JPay has identified that as an opportunity in the market. So we're starting to see cards like this pop up in prison visiting rooms.
I mean, when you put out little cards with pictures on it, like people are crying because their money order takes so long to get there, and trying to make you put it on credit cards, now that tells you right there there's something bad wrong.
Of course, we're going to catch a bad rap here and there. Verizon naturally catches a bad rap. Google, whomever the customers get upset. So I can't satisfy everybody, but we really try. We really try hard. If you listen to phone calls, if I take you through that call center and you listen to how our customer service reps treat our customers, you'd be blown away.
Okay, I do apologize for the inconvenience you're experiencing through the website. I'm more than happy to assist you further today with completing the payment transaction.
This company's focus is on customer service, meaning you satisfy the customer when they call.
This is Jewel Miller, and
Before JPay came around, that type of customer service did not exist in corrections, period.
why when we send these money orders that we have to send this with all this information on it. Once it goes on your record, are y'all not able to keep it?
We go out of our way to make sure that they feel comfortable, that they feel like you're spending money with a company that cares about you.
This is one of the most aggravating things that I've ever had to deal with. And for anybody to tell a person that everybody's happy with this JPay, honey, I can tell you there ain't nobody happy with this JPay. She hung up.
Daddy! 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 Say hi. He's up there. I need a second job just because I don't have enough money now.
Corrections agencies are adding all kinds of new charges for things like electricity, medications, even room and board. County jails have been the most aggressive, charging people for intake fees and ID bracelets.
But I can't afford that charge. It's basically like paying 2 rents. I gotta pay my rent and my electric, and then I gotta pay his phone calls. I mean, it's all of that, and then his court cost, his lawyer cost. Just for him to eat, they take his rent money out of his food money. So I put in $50 for food, and they take out probably like $25.
Inmates who don't have any money coming in can end up in debt to the jail. Then no one wants to send them money because they know it'll just be taken by the state.
I was about to say you got 1 minute left. There's other people who are sitting there starving who have negative accounts. So if somebody does put money in their account, they're not gonna get no food. Bye, Daddy. Love you. Love you, Daddy. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Love you. Bye. It's horrible. They call and it's just like 15 minutes fly like that. 15 minutes, you gotta basically pay $3 every time. I didn't mess up. I didn't do a crime. I didn't get myself in trouble. Why I gotta pay for all that?
They're out to get the extra money, and they don't care who they get it off of.
The revenues from the money transfer business are tiny compared to commissary or phone revenue, right? We're just a drop in the bucket.
The FCC added 2 days.
They don't even have access.
The reason we're in this mess now, on my side, my industry has abused the public. And I'm willing to admit that. We have abused the public.
Commissioner Claiborne.
What we are seeing is people making unspeakable sacrifices. Elders are not taking their medicine so they'll be able to afford to speak to their young ones. We're seeing children go without food, without clothing, without the support they need.
The one area where we're starting to see some relief for families is with the phones. These companies had been allowed to charge exorbitant prices, sometimes $17 for a 15-minute call. They were paying commissions as high as 80% back to the prisons.
These are often the most vulnerable. These are often those with the more muted voices. These are often the individuals that we choose not to hear from. I have chosen to listen.
The Federal Communications Commission stepped in last year and said, no way, you can't just charge people as much as you want in order to give more money back to the prisons.
Those rates went into effect in February of this year, and I cannot tell you how many letters and calls we're getting, and even the providers are getting, saying this is making a difference already.
That makes a big difference for me. It was a joy to my heart.
All a lot of guys have when they're incarcerated are those phone calls, those letters, those visits. That's it. That's what they live for. That's how they get through their time. I seen guys, their family didn't come see them in a week or two, and the next thing you know, they ended up in a hole for 90 days because they just felt alone. Because you feel alone. You can't build a family in prison.
The FCC's order acknowledged that we have more work to do. It is up to us, if we care about the recidivism rates, which are incredibly high, among the highest in the world, we need to make sure that there are not communications disconnect just because someone is behind bars. When those critical disconnects remain and are perpetuated by an unjust and unreasonable rate structure, you're going to have people going home as strangers.
When you come out, the hardest thing is not having any money. And then all the money that they've been spending on you while you've been away, they don't really have any money to help you out with. So you kind of forced to get back into that revolving door. Well, I'm just going to do it for a week or two. But that week or two turned into another 10 years in prison.
There you go, man.
Appreciate you, man, sir.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. Nothing but love, always.
I think Keith and I have both got through this so well because we have stayed close and spent our time together, and that is a priority to me.
He's just in a really good spirit, and he ate good, and we just had a wonderful time. Just means so much to the inmates and to the parents that I don't think some people realize how great it is. I had a great time. I am hopeful that this will be an incredible example of how federal government, private industry, how we can truly make these markets more efficient and a better service to those who need them the most.
My counsel to other industries that serve a imprisoned population is you better pay attention to what's the ethical, right, moral, whatever good word you want to use, to treat people fairly. Because if you don't treat people fairly, ultimately, it's not a long-term business plan. Because if you don't, then some regulator's going to step in, and then you're going to have to deal with it.